Welcome back to episode 2 of the Obsessive Podcast alongside Colton Tobias and Evan Laurent. I'm Justin Stewart. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Doing good, Justin.
Yeah, I'm doing good as well. Enjoying the Pittsburgh annual, mixed spring weather.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. A couple days ago, 70 degrees, and then yesterday, it was sunny outside. It was cloudy. It looked like it wanted to rain. It snowed. There was hail. It was just ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
All 4 seasons in one.
Pretty much. But before we get started, I want to do some plugs with our social media handles. You can find us on Twitter at Obsessive Cast. That would be OBSESSIVE Cast. You can find us on Instagram as well at the Obsessive Sports Pod, but sports is spelled SPTS, and then pod is POD. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So, guys, I was thinking our main topic for today, unless you guys want to have something else to talk about, will be about baseball and maybe more specifically the Pirates. So, Colton, I know you have passionate thoughts regarding the Pirates. Where do you see this team heading? Maybe this year, or maybe in the next few years?
Oh boy, Justin. Yeah, so I've been going to Pirate games my entire life, and what has happened to this team ever since 2016 has really disappointed me, and I think it's disappointed for thousands of other Pirate fans with just the annual criticism of Bob Nutting not spending any money and just not signing great players. And, obviously they don't have the payroll like the Dodgers do, where they can pretty much sign whoever they want without having to worry financially. And I think Bob Nutting does have a point when he says that there's the economics of baseball, but because the Pirates are a low market team. But I just wish I've always wished that he would just try a little better with trying to actually show fans that we care about getting a winning baseball team at PNC Park. And the fan attendance thing doesn't really bother me because it's a great place to watch a game, but but if you win and if you continue to win, a lot more fans would show up, and I wish Nutting would see that.
Evan, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I remember, 2010, 11-ish, I remember being excited with each year of the upcoming baseball season, getting ready for opening day. It was always a big event in school that, people skip to go to opening day. And this isn't even, I'm not even talking about the few years in a row that we made the playoffs. Even before then and after then. But the past few years, it's like that whole interest to just, I don't know, it's really gone down for me. And Colton had a good point of just what's happened to the team, especially the past few years, is really apparent that the money, they just do not want to spend it. And yeah, I actually have not been to a game the past 3 seasons. I don't think it's been since 2018 I've been to a Pirates game. I don't know. They're a hard team to follow. And follow.
That's fair. That's fair. I went to a game last year, so I'm kind of more on the recent litany as far as that goes. But I'm always gonna be a Pirates fan, as sick and twisted as that's gonna be for me. Obviously, I know they're not gonna be very good this year. Probably won't be good next year either. Probably will never be good consistently, if we're gonna be real about it. But it's just an unfortunate, sad state of affairs because people in Pittsburgh love baseball. I know people are like, oh, this is a Steelers town or this is a Penguins town. And it is. Like, it's definitely popular now. But it helps that those teams are consistently winners too. And they're always in the playoffs. And I know they don't always win the championship, but the point remains they're competitive. They have solid ownership for the most part, and they do whatever it takes to win. I mean, we just saw with the Penguins during their Stanley Cup runs. They pretty much jettisoned all their first round picks. They've pretty much went all in on their current core. The Steelers, while they don't really necessarily take that approach, they've had a quarterback in place for almost 20 years on two occasions. Well, not so much the first occasion, but they've had two franchise caliber quarterbacks, and that helps. And they've, for the most part, built around them pretty solidly in the draft, or maybe a couple free agency signings here and there. With the Pirates, no one's asking them to break the bank and sign the greatest superstar out there. It's just plugging in holes on your team and just improving it. Whether it's adding veterans or a pitching arm, something like that, or a bat. Like this whole notion that they can't spend like $20 or $30 million in free agency, I just think it's absolutely blasphemous. That's just my opinion. So, yeah, it's definitely frustrating to see the same stuff over and over again. Especially, I don't know if you guys saw with Brian Reynolds, Evan. He's pretty much their best player right now, and they had arbitration hearings. He wanted $4.9 million, and the Pirates only offered him like $4.3 million. So it was like a $600K difference. And that's the kind of stuff that kind of irritates us Pirates fans, just stuff like that. It's just like you're really that petty. You can't pay a guy $600K. So
just shows how cheap Nutting is, Justin.
See the one in the interview or in an interview recently that said that he didn't even know what was going on with his contract.
Yeah, you talking about Brian Reynolds?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like conflicting reports about him and the Pirates as regards to contract talks. I read somewhere it said the Pirates have tried to offer him multiple contracts, but he's rejected all of them. And then I was reading an article on I think Jason Mackey wrote something. Then he said that Reynolds said they never talked about an extension. So I don't know who you want to believe. I'm more apt to probably at this point believe Reynolds, because that's just how the Pirates just haven't done a good job with that. So
I could definitely be on Reynolds' side with this because it's just something that Nutting would do.
Yeah, and it also makes you question, like, who would want to play for the Pirates? Like, that could be another reason why they're not getting, or why no one stays and why they just can't get anyone to stay. It just these past, I mean, you could even talk about the playoff drought beforehand. Just that reputation that they've built up over these, these past however many years. Do you think people want to, or players want to, come to this city after, with our past, how we deal with players leaving, departures, whatever?
I just think at the end of the day, Evan, how there are players who just want to play in Major League Baseball regardless of the team, and maybe they can think, like, I can start my career here, and if they're not going to be if they're not pretty much going to give me a payday, and if it shows if I have potential, I'm just going to sign with another team. So I mean, I think it's not just the Pirates. I think that's like every player. Well, like, in my opinion, if you want to play professional sports, you can't moan about what team drafts you or what team you go to. You just have to work with the team that you have, and then you just got to do your best and try to work as best you can so you can prove yourself on if you can get like a big contract extension with another team or the team you're already on.
That's I think it's a great point. Also, like, I don't want to like beat the bush of the Pirates too much because they're not the only team in baseball that kind of operates like this. You have like the Cleveland Guardians, the Kansas City Royals, just small market teams that manipulate service time as it relates to minor league players. And I can go on that about O'Neal Cruz too, one of the Pirates' top prospects, was raking in spring training, and he just got demoted to AAA, all because of the Super 2 rule, which, if you don't know, is basically if they keep you down the minors for a certain period of time, the team can get an extra year out of you, and you don't go to free agency as early. So it's just those kind of things, that nonsense that has fan morale so low, like I always talk about. And, if O'Neal Cruz was up with the Pirates the first month or so and just the entire season, they would definitely be a better team. And you cannot tell me that Kevin Newman, while Kevin Newman defensively is a better player than O'Neal Cruz, offensively, he's nowhere near his stratosphere. And at this point with baseball, you need offense to win games. That's just how it is right now. And Kevin Newman just isn't going to cut it. So O'Neal Cruz should definitely be up here. I don't care about the service time stuff. You're not going to sign him anyway. So I don't know why you're so privy on keeping him for an extra year. I just don't get it. And, we're going to see the same cycle again. All their young guns, they have a pretty good farm system right now. They'll get called up. They might be good for 1 or 2 years. And then once they're all due up for contracts, another fire sale will ensue, and we're just back to square one. That's what's going to happen. That's what I've trained my brain to think, and that's a crazy way to think. And that kind of business, guys, it's just not healthy for baseball. You have one team like the Dodgers who just spend money like uncontrollably, and I guess they have an endless supply of money, which I don't know about. And then you have the Pirates, on the other hand, who just don't really spend anything, if not much. So that's just the whole point, Colton. You were alluding to a salary cap. I totally agree. I didn't care when this lockout happened. I really didn't feel bad for either side. I really felt bad more so for the guys that are making like the minimum salary. If you want to bump that up, that's fine. But the real issue here is salary cap. Whatever they were arguing about, to me, was moot point. So,
Justin, I think baseball as a whole, too, it's been in decline. And I think that has steered a lot of baseball fans away, even though I'm not worried about people playing baseball, especially at our age, because there was no doubt in my mind there's always going to be people that are going to want to play. But the fan thing, it's just so hard to adapt a game like baseball to a 21st century age with everybody's short attention span. And unfortunately, it's just like some people just don't have the patience to sit through a 3-hour baseball game. And I think Major League Baseball has tried to do everything they could to try to speed the game up. I know there are baseball fans that are our age that don't care how long the games are, but I just think as a general audience, I'm just curious to see what you guys think. Like, is Major League Baseball struggling with trying to attract fans just because of the fast attention span world we live in today?
Honestly, another thing, I think the season goes on too long. I think it could be trimmed. I did hear that they were doing a timed pitch count to speed up the game. Like a literal, a clock that counts down how long the pitcher has to pitch the ball. I don't know what you thought about that. If you think that's a way it could get, if that will get passed, or.
Yeah, I mean, for me, they can do anything they want, but the reality is, I think the games are still going to be close to 3 hours. So it's just one of those things. I don't think there's really an easy fix or solution. You just have to hope guys don't take 15 minutes in the batting area. If they step out of the batter's box, they might untie their shoes and tie their shoes, or play with their gloves. Just silly stuff like that. And then pitchers, they're weird windups. A lot of them have weird windups now. And yeah, just like time of play, umpires, reviewing plays, umpires arguing with managers. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of stuff that can go wrong. Fights too, that could take up time. So I really wouldn't tinker with that, honestly. But to me, baseball is a sport where there's very few exciting moments, especially during the regular season. You're more apt to find great moments in the postseason. And I think you're right, Evan. I think the season is kind of too long because we start in April and we don't end until like November. And that's, if you think about it, that's more than half of the year. And then not to mention spring training as well. So that's like 8 out of 12 months baseball is actually active. And to me, that's kind of like at some point, I kind of get fatigued by baseball and I just want the playoffs to happen. But yeah, just going back to the baseball as a whole, I do think it's kind of a dying sport. It's definitely not as popular as it used to be. At one point in time, it actually used to be the most popular sport in America, but that was back in the 50s before the NFL took off. But yeah, I think just the way they operate, how they handle things, I think the commissioner is a complete buffoon. I think he's an idiot. And yeah, I think if you want to attract a younger audience, you have to be good at marketing. And I think baseball is also really bad at marketing their star players. Like if I asked you, Evan, do you have any idea who Mike Trout is?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know who he is. Like, that's what I mean. Like, he's one of the few players that get, what would you say, like ad revenue, or you see him on for promotions for the league. Like, he's one of the faces of the league.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah. So yeah, what I was trying to do with that, yeah, yes, you're right about that. But my point was like if we were at the mall, we were like downtown walking, if he walked past us, the average fan wouldn't know what he looked like. Like that.
Yeah.
That's my point. If you go to the NBA or NFL or even NHL, depending on how obsessed you are with your team, like if you walk past a guy you know is a legit star player, you're gonna know who that person is. With baseball, you cannot say the same unless you are a super crazed, obsessive fan. So yeah, maybe him, maybe Fernando Tatis Jr., maybe Ronald Acuna, and after that, the list dries up pretty
It could
quickly.
be Bryce Harper too.
Okay, Bryce Harper too. Yeah, I'll give you Bryce
He
Harper.
was. I remember him being on. Well, he was another one of the big faces of the league. Like for promotional material wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but again, the list isn't. It's not nearly as like recognizable as the NFL's like their top players in the league or whoever they want you to see, like they build that brand.
No, that's fair. And then my last point, because I'll let you guys talk more, is yeah, baseball. It's just they need to do a better job showing like some of their more passionate and emotional side of the game too. This whole notion that you can't celebrate hitting a home run, you can't celebrate striking someone out. To me, I think it's absolutely silly. And I think that's part of the reason why baseball is in decline because we have that old man's mentality where we're supposed to just do everything mundane and boring. And we just lack, I think baseball just lacks excitement. And when there is excitement, we kind of like try to subdue it, push it aside, and say it's not good for the game of baseball. You're not respecting the sport. So that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like what they're going to how are they going to deal with if someone what do they consider like over celebrating a specific play or specific home run? Have they said what the boundaries are for that?
I mean, there's really no boundaries, but it's just more so like an unwritten rule thing. You know, if like you hit a home run and like you flip your bat and you're jumping up and down, you know, running the bases, that you're probably your next at bat, you're probably gonna get hit in the back. So it's just stuff like that.
Or
Like that's yeah.
Or you can get punched in the face like Jose Batista.
That's it.
Yeah, I just think that again, like you said, it's that mentality of like the America's pastime, no fun whatsoever. That is definitely a reason why I don't think it's caught on with a lot of the younger generation and why it is called America's pastime. I don't know. That's definitely a reason you don't see a lot of people, younger people, catching on to the MLB.
I agree with that, Evan. Yeah, but I think I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but I'm a firm believer that there will always be kids who are going to want to play baseball. Like I just don't ever think there's going to be like a shortage of players in Little League or for a high school league, because I just think that there's just too many people in this world who were probably born into baseball fanatics families that are going to want to play.
No,
Yeah,
that's fair. It's fair.
Okay, so yeah, I do agree with that, because you look at the youth leagues around, they're not struggling in any way whatsoever, at least that I'm not aware of. I haven't really checked up on them, but every time I drive by in my neighborhood, or a little bit past my neighborhood, if I drive by in the spring, there's a baseball field where they have like some type of youth baseball programs, and the fields are always packed. And everyone that like family, friends, family, actual family relatives, they all have, that's one of the sports all of their kids play. Is like, it seems like it's almost a necessity with everyone that I know, that they get their kids involved in baseball. So Colton, I think you're right there. Some people will want to catch on, and just the early exposure to it, especially that capacity, is enough to get a good enough, a strong enough following.
I think it also is fair to say too that baseball is also an international sport too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that's how we get a lot of our just for example, we have Pirates, the MLB. They get a lot of their players from the what'd you call it, the South America,
like Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic. Actually, so I was in Washington D.C. yesterday, and I went inside the American History Museum because we had a hour or two of free roam, and they had a section to honor like baseball in the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. It was really cool, even though I was a little upset because I know the Smithsonian owns one of Roberto Clemente's Pirates jerseys, and out of all exhibits not to display it, it was not displayed. I was very shocked.
Yeah, and you consider that. I mean, if you think of the people that play baseball around here, the youth leagues and stuff, and just imagine there where you can play baseball nearly year round. There in Florida, there's a big, southern, wherever it's warmer, you have people who are willing to play, all the time. So you're right there, Colton, where it's, there's always going to be people that want to play.
No, yeah, that's definitely for sure. That's definitely for sure. Baseball is still popular internationally, and it's just in America, it's just kind of lacking right now. And I think you're losing the average fan. Like, when someone turns on their TV and you see, oh, baseball's on, and this is like really, especially during the summer. Would I rather be watching this? Would I rather be going out and hanging out with my friends? I think I would choose the latter, honestly, at this point. But me, I'm always gonna be a baseball fan. Always gonna like the Pirates as much as they rip my heart and break my heart too. But yeah, it's just a fan of me. I just love baseball for some reason. There's just something about it. The novelty of it just attracts me. And yeah, I just like watching the Pirates play. Although they lose almost every night. It's just one of those things. It's just me, I guess, being a fan. So I don't know.
I mean, there are
Justin. I mean, I'm a baseball fan too. It's just yeah. I mean, and I'll be honest too. I haven't went to a game since 2019, and it's because obviously 2020, the pandemic kind of put a stop to that. It's just 2021. I was so busy. I had work, and I had work. I had an internship, and unfortunately, I just never found the time to go. obviously, like if somebody would invite me to a game this year, I just wouldn't say, "Oh no, I'm not giving Nutting his money." I would obviously go.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of passionate fans in Pittsburgh. Something interesting I noticed, though, and again, my familiarity with the Pirates in recent years isn't the best, but I know of fans that have been so passionate through the previous playoff droughts, pre-2013, that have gone to games consistently and just, made that an annual. They went to multiple games a year. But something recently, they just, even them who were passionate all throughout those years, they just do not care. And I think that's a big issue, especially with the state of the MLB and points that we were talking about earlier, how there's just like, can we agree there's an overall, at least in the United States, like a lack of interest for the most part. But yeah, that's something I've noticed considering the Pirates fan base.
No, yeah, that's for sure. And I feel like it's sad. Like I said earlier in the show, it's a sad state of affairs when like the average Pittsburgh sports fan really doesn't really care about the Pirates anymore. It's just that apathy. That's a terrible thing to have. And it's gotten to the point now where I think for some fans, not all fans, but their lease for PNC Park and the Pirates is up in 2030. And I see a realistic, maybe not realistic, but I see a scenario in which if the Pirates don't really get any better and they don't really get fans to show up like they did during the playoff runs, I think Bob Nutting will feel justified in relocating the team. And I know there's a few cities that want a team. I know Vegas is one, somewhere in the Midwest. Like there's always a city, Nashville, there's always a city that wants a new team. So I feel like the Pirates, if fans, and I'm not blaming fans for this because they're not at fault here, but that's just one of those logics that Bob Nutting probably has in his head, because we could not show up to the games, we could boycott the team and tell them to sell the team, but the reality is, as bad as they are and as bad as attendance is, he's still making money, and that's the problem. Really, instead of spending the money, I don't want to say keeping the money, but it's pretty close. And it's I keep saying it, but I'm gonna say it again. It's just kind of frustrating, honestly. And yeah, it's just I never questioned the Rooneys. I never questioned Penguins ownership about whether or not they're trying to win. We can criticize their moves, their trades, their signings, which are justified. The Steelers and the Penguins haven't made the greatest decisions, especially in recent years, more so the Steelers. But I never have to question their desire to win football games. The Pirates, too many times over the years, you just have to question where their headspace is as far as trying to compete year in and year out. So
it would be ironic that if the Pirates moved to Vegas, Vegas would have the Raiders and Pirates. Like I don't know. That would be.
I never thought about that.
Me too, Evan. I never thought about it that way either.
But just like similar type of, I don't know, similar logos, similar, but beyond the point, it would not surprise me in the least if that happened, if they end up relocating, because like you said, you look at the Pittsburgh sports, you have the Penguins and Steelers, who pretty much universally are respected. I know there's a lot of people that are obviously going to be rivals with us. But I think you look at the Penguins and Steelers and see teams that, have a rich history, have good ownership. And then you have the polar opposite with the Pirates, who do have a history, but again, it's recent years hasn't been the best on their track record. So like you said, nothing would surprise you with this team. what they do in their decision making process.
Go ahead, Colton.
I mean, bye, Justin. I just think that I think the Pirates game plan, because I've heard this so many times, how they're just trying to like get a good core together, like in the minor leagues, in their farm system, and then maybe try to be good for 1 and 2 years and then blow it up and start over again. It's just, boy, I've been pulling back and forth if the Pirates would ever want to throw away over 130 years of baseball in this city. I mean, I think it's a touchy subject. I mean, it's not that far, guys. I mean, that's only 8 years away.
No, yeah, you know what? I keep saying it's sad because it is. The Pirates, if you go back pre-1993, they have a rich history. And, you know, I can't really tell you a period in time when they were like awful for an extended period. They were always competitive, you know, whether it was like with Honus Wagner, you know, Roberto Clemente, Willie Stargell, Dave Parker, you know, Dick Rowe, the list goes on. But now it's just, I go on Twitter and like I can't scroll for 2 minutes without someone outside of Pittsburgh clowning the Pirates for how much of a joke they've become. I mean, let's be real about it. You can't even buy a jersey anymore because if you do buy a jersey, that guy's probably going to get traded the same year. Like it's gotten to that point. The fans have no one to root for because the moment they get attached to a certain player, they deal them for a bunch of prospects. Like that's how it's been the past 30 years. And, you know, I've always joked about this, but I think their best-selling jersey is probably Roberto Clemente. And it's probably actually truthful because when you talk about the Pirates, we always go back to Roberto Clemente. Like we never talk about this current generation of Pirates teams. And to me, that's just a shame. Like, I love Roberto Clemente. You know, he's obviously top 3 Pirate of all time. You're not going to change my mind on that one. But, you know, we need, like, new blood. Like, I know we had McCutchen there for a while, but we need someone where we could, like, not necessarily leech off on, but someone that's going to be here for more than, like, 2 years. Someone that's going to be here and make a mark on the Pittsburgh community for, like, a decade or so. Like, you need someone like that. And, you know, that's just something I don't ever see happening unless ownership changes. Like, and that's honestly, like, all we're talking about is probably a moot point because at the end of the day, if the owner's still in charge and he has his family in charge, you know, nothing's ever going to change. And, you know, I don't know if there's a way you can force the guy to sell the team, but I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know. It's just not looking good right now, guys. It's just not looking good.
I think like a big controversy would have to happen within the Pirates organization for that to ever happen, because if that never happens, Nutting is never going to sell that team. And this has been a conversation that has been the talk of Pittsburgh for the past. I mean, McCutchen got traded away in 2018, so we're coming up on 4 years of this, going on 5, and the narrative just isn't going to change. And I've always felt that Pirates fans who don't want to go to the games because they pretty much want to protest Nutting, like, they are completely justified in that. And I don't. Yeah, it's just a touchy. It's just a touchy subject. Evan, did you have anything else before we have to sign off?
Yeah, I remember that. That was a dark day in Pittsburgh history. Whenever McCutchen was no longer a Pirate. I was still in high school. Yeah, we were probably all still.
We were seniors in high school when that happened. Same thing with Cole, because they got traded a few days apart.
And overall, there was just everyone wanted to boycott the team, and they were so furious because McCutchen left the same time that, was it Cole?
Yeah, they got traded around the same time period. Yeah.
Like, I think, was it a few days stretch or something?
Yeah, I think it was, Evan.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. After that, I think, my last game that I actually went to was 2018, the summer, whenever when McCutchen came back on the Giants and played in PNC Park again.
I was at that game too.
The first game that he was back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was the last. That was probably the last. Yeah, that was the last game that I was at. Pirates game. So, like you said, though, if you go to, anywhere to look for a Pirates jersey, you're either going to find, like you said, Roberto Clemente, or just a generic one that just says Pirates and no name on the back. And that's sad as well. Because if you buy someone's jersey, there's no guarantee that they'll be on the team another month, with how quick players come and go. Justin, you mentioned it earlier, just that, there isn't that name, a new name that, when you think of, that's Pirates. It was McCutchen for a while, but we saw how that turned out.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I don't know, man. I'm just sometimes, you just look at teams and you're just at a loss for words, honestly, with some of the things they do. And it's just unfortunate because, just to wrap this up, Pittsburgh is a great baseball town. We saw it. They increase their attendance every year during the playoff runs, and just to see where it's at now, it's just really disheartening, honestly. But just a reminder before we sign off, you can listen to our first episode, which is out on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and maybe YouTube in the near future, depending on how I feel about uploading to YouTube. But yes, if you want to follow us on social media, our Twitter is Obsessive Cast once again. And our Instagram is The Obsessive. Sports is spelled SPTS, and then pod. Once again, The Obsessive SPTS pod. Gentlemen, it was great talking to you guys. Hopefully we can do it again next week.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much.
Yep. All right. Yep. See you next week or whenever the next episode is.
All right. See you guys later. Have a great rest of your Saturday.
See you guys.
You too.
See you.